When I did go and work for a small little private centre where there was a qualified early childhood teacher and a qualified primary teacher, and adults were referred to as teachers, and practice was a whole lot better than what I was looking at and seeing in a range of places, I thought, man, I need to go and retrain, because I'd done a little bit licensing points with the qualifications in those days. And some really amazing people who I worked with showed me that these little kids need teachers teaching them, not just people meeting their basic needs. And I thought, wow, I need to go and join a profession and, you know, get a professional qualification. And during that time I met a whole lot of older women who were involved in the moving and the shaking that had happened.
It was the Muldoon government era, and quite a antagonistic environment to unions. It was a very intense and active time. The feminist movement had enormous influence on a lot of the thinking of childcare workers and parents.
I had this idea, don't know where I got it from in my family, that this baby was going to go into daycare and I would keep on teaching, and this was 1974. There just wasn't any daycare. The only daycare that existed was, and again I don't know how I found out about it, the Victoria University creche. I was appointed to be the director of the university creche in late 78, 79, and I asked the university if they'd let me go to a conference, and they surprisingly did, and it was down in Christchurch and it was the Te Tauripuna Ora, but it was the New Zealand Childcare Association, then annual conference, and I went there, and this was my very first conference I'd ever attended in my life. I was sort of amazed to sort of see all these people, and Sonia Davies waltzed in, and at afternoon tea on probably the Sunday she made a dramatic announcement, and she said she wanted all childcare workers to go there, and everybody's thinking, how's she dividing us, and no employers there. And sort of, oh my goodness, what's going on?
Oh, it was fabulous times. There was a group of women who were, a small group of women who really made all of this happen. We worked together in a very collective way. I met some fantastic women like, you know, Sonia Davies. She and I set the very, very first meeting back in 1979 for childcare workers. She and I sat in her office in the shop workers union and planned out that very first meeting.
And Sonia basically said she was going to set up this union. She had tried everything else to get quality childcare. She had worked through many years in the association. They had done their best, but it still wasn't delivering, and so we had to use a strategy of getting a union. She said it'll be easy, won't take long.
Well, we had been working since really 1982 when the union was registered to get the first award for childcare workers, and we were hit by the wage and price freeze, which Muldoon introduced in 1982, just at the time when the union was registered and was ready to get out there and make a difference. And the wage and price freeze prohibited collective bargaining, so we needed to get an exemption from the government to get some negotiations underway. We had been aiming for a national award, but the strategy that we came up with the Federation of Labour, this is the Early Childhood Workers Union and the Federation of Labour together, came up with this approach, which was a consenting parties award, initially without wages in it, given the context of the time where no collective bargaining and no salaries, no wage increases.
We did crazy things like working on at the negotiations into the middle of the night. And I do remember one consenting parties negotiations when we were still there at 12 o'clock at night, and I think someone had opened the wine and other people had left, and there might only be about kind of 3 people representing each side at that point. I don't think we made a lot more progress at that point that night. We might have wrapped up one clause or something.
Well, I won't say, but there was certainly no collusion, I can tell you that. Probably we could read each other's body language. That was about as far as it went.
I was a new mother at the time. I had a 6-week-old baby who was there with me. And actually the employers had other new mothers as well, and we actually knew a lot of the employers because they were primarily from the community-based centres.
I was a parent on a management committee for a community-based childcare centre, and we could see that we had an interest in improving the conditions for our staff, but on the other hand, we were aware that at that time early childhood wasn't funded in the way it is today, and that we were going to have to balance that against what parents could afford.
Sometimes it got a bit fiery, but generally it was, you know, we're all fighting for the same things, really.
We realised that if we were going to be sitting across the table from childcare workers, and that, as you've pointed out, included my sister on occasion, and saying to them, no, we can't agree to everything you've put on the table, that the other side of the coin was we needed to be starting a campaign to get early childhood better funded and better resourced and better supported by government.
You felt like you'd gone from very small beginnings to something really huge and significant, and it felt like it was significant. We were breaking new ground, and and having to articulate our issues to the rest of the union movement for a start, to the government also, to the public at large. We learned to analyse, I guess, where we'd come from, why this sector and why this group of workers were in the position they were in.
Does she?
The ECECA is the only multi-employer agreement covering teachers in the education and care services in New Zealand, and it covers around about 160 employers. It's based on a commitment to high quality early childhood education, and underpinning that is a vision of pay parity for teachers, so that teachers in education and care services can have the same salaries and conditions as their counterparts in kindergartens and in the compulsory sector. As such, it's a flagship for the sector.
Now here I am as a grandparent with my grandchild benefiting from those changes, and that's a great feeling too. It's a great feeling of continuity to be able to see that achievement, I suppose, and even within my own family benefiting from it.
The women, I'm still in contact with some of those women, and they still talk about it. They can't believe that they joined the union and they asked for more money and they did this.
I think movers and shakers and stroppy women in the day and collectivism, that we haven't got as far as we've got politically and in the collective agreement without working together and harping on, really.
And then I'm going to bury all of you guys in it. No!